That's the investigation into January 6th. And you coming out of that, I'm sure you've been called a hero more times than you're comfortable with. That phrase makes a lot of people uncomfortable, but you've got a children's book out called, and let me show folks what it looks like, and we'll also put it up on the screen, but it's called That's What Heroes Do. Yeah, that's a better shot. I got it for my grandkids.
That's awesome.
And yeah, we'll be doing that. Some are able to read on their own. Some are going to have it read to them. But here's what kind of is the grabber for me with the book is just the reminder that heroes are not extraordinary people all the time, but rather they're people who do extraordinary things.
That's right.
What put it in your head to even do a children's book?
Well, it's a good question. And I would also say to people, even if you don't have kids, it's a good book to have around. And you'll understand it if you get it. Like, yes, I have been called a hero, and I always eschew that because I don't think that describes me. Because I literally did my job. I would say to people, like, it looks like heroism, but in reality, I'm just surrounded by cowards. And so, when you compare cowards with somebody that's doing,
relatively speaking, you look really great.
That's right. It looks heroic. But I wrote I used to say I wrote my adult book, and then I realized how that came across. I wrote my grown-up book right when I got out of Congress. I don't have an adult book, and but I did my grown-up book, and then I was talking with my wife and stuff, and it just like my agent had actually suggested you should write a children's book, and I'm like, yeah, no way, like me. And I started thinking about it, and it's like, well, what could I? And I had realized that like one of the things that we're bereft of in this country, especially for young people, I don't even know if I use that term correctly, but like, they have their superheroes on TV. Right. I'm sure they know about military members and how what military members can do are heroic. But I think kids need a reminder, an inspiration, the reality that heroism is not about flying in a cape. It's not about, I do have an example of somebody that died for their country, a friend of mine named Andreas O'Keefe. I wear his name on my wrist. But it can be people that just do everyday things to help people. There's a very brief discussion in the book or mention of helping kids learn to fly. And I love this story. There was a black business owner I knew when I was in Congress, and he was a supporter of mine. And he actually started an organization called Tuskegee Next. Mm-hmm. And what does Tuskegee Next do? Well, it goes into inner city, the tough areas of Chicago, and teaches young, predominantly black kids to fly airplanes. So one of the things he told me, he goes, unfortunately, in my community, he said, a lot of kids, they think they either have to be musicians or sports players. And he goes, I go in and tell them, like, flying a plane, we can teach you to fly an airplane, and you can go get a job at a big airline. And a lot of them are shocked. Well, to date, he has taken 60 kids out of a rough area with no hope, taught them to fly airplanes. They now are employed by United Airlines. And by the way, an airline pilot, when you're starting out, $200,000, you'll end up at $500,000. I mean, This is an incredible thing. And it was just a guy that thought about, like, I'm very successful. How do I pass on that success? Had a passion for aviation. And it's like little things like that anybody can do. You don't have to start Tuskegee Next, but are you going to help your friend at school? Maybe you do something for mom and dad that doesn't feel right, in terms of, like, it's not necessarily what you want to do, but it's helpful for them. It's those little steps and little things that we can do every day that makes you heroic. Yeah. And by the way, if you remember when the Trump administration took over and they were going after DEI in, the airlines, one of the programs they were talking about was Tuskegee Next. And I just want to be very clear about something. You cannot, because of your race or gender, you cannot go into an airline with lower qualifications. You have to be able to fly planes. And if you can fly planes, we don't care what you look like.
Really?
You can fly the planes.
Yeah. There's a takeaway from the book as it nears its end is basically, again, correct me, the language I'm sure I'm going to get wrong, but basically the hero ends up being a hero is described basically as someone who cares about other people and tries to help other people.
That's right. That's right.
That's I think is going to get through to a lot of kids who have that superhero cape mentality when they think of the word hero. How did you, just out of curiosity, how do you even match up with an artist? How did you find your illustrator for this?
Isn't the illustrations awesome? Aren't they?
Yeah,
awesome?
they're vibrant.
Yeah.
And I think kids are going to love.
And it's interesting because the dad and the son is named Christian. That's my son's name. And obviously it's based on us. And I even my son who's 4, he can look at it and be like, oh yeah, that's Adam. That's dad, And we just, look, I have an agency. I'm represented by UTA. And so we were talking about doing the children's book. And so we got hooked up with Thomas Nelson, the imprint. Yep. And then they basically go out and kind of interview a few illustrators. And that's what we did. And I couldn't have picked better because they were just, this was the best. I mean, it really turned out amazing.
It grabs, if it's on a bookshelf, you kind of gravitate toward it. And then for those listening that are interested, is there a recommended age group for this book?
According to the official, it's 4 to 8, but I think 2 to 100 years old, I think it's enjoyable, but definitely 4 to 8 fits in perfectly.
Gotcha. Yeah, the 8-year-old's the 5, 6, 8, and 8-year-olds are probably reading. 7-year-olds are reading it themselves, which is great.